what is real connection, and then what is our brain telling us is real connection. People have hyperconnectivity. So in this place of hyperconnectivity, where there's the opportunity to be really connected, we're feeling more isolated and more lonely than ever. We want to present our best selves. The problem is when we're excited for others, when we're seeing that on social media, we are getting to interact with dopamine releases in our brain or oxytocin. The other person's not getting that. It's not a connecting experience.
All right. Hey, y'all. Welcome to the Happy Life Agenda podcast. I'm Dani Cee, and today we are going to have a really important conversation about human connection. As many of you know, connection is one of the fundamental pillars of the Happy Life Agenda, and it has been shown that what separates humans so distinctly from every other species on Earth, can hardly say that word, is the quest for connection. So, further research has shown also that advanced aging occurs in part because fewer and fewer of us are actually pursuing relationships as we age. So we're going to break down all of the opportunities to, lean into connection and relationship by talking about social capital. And I have Dr. Rick Mask here from Southern New Hampshire University. He is a strategic leadership consultant, an author, and he has graced the TEDx stage and is a globally renowned speaker on the topic of social capital. So Rick, welcome to the call. Thank you so much for being here. Tell us a little bit about yourself and, a little bit more about this topic.
Absolutely, Dani. Thank you so much for allowing me to be here and sharing this space with me. I'm really, I've seen your work with the Happy Life Agenda, and I think it's such an amazing thing that you're doing. So I'm really excited to be here and be speaking with you today. So just wanted to say that first off. Yeah, so I, went through my academic years, my bachelor's, master's, and when I got to my doctorate, I had to write a dissertation, which was it was a very intense part of my journey and probably one of the hardest, most strenuous things I had done in my life to that point.
Wow.
And what I focused on within my doctoral research was social capital, the construct of social capital, and use it as a unit of measurement for significance in my dissertation. But I engaged with it in that what at the time was a very narrow facet, because one of the rules of the dissertation is narrow it down, narrow it down, narrow it down. And
Of course.
any of my people listening that had to write one, that's what you hear from your committee all the time. So I had gotten really narrow with it, and I was like, but wait a minute, like this isn't everything. Like this is guiding principles for the way human beings interact. And so I started following up on what would be seminal literature in it. Read a lot of Robert Putnam's work, professor emeritus from Harvard. He wrote Bowling Alone and other books as well, and then went broader into other authors, and then found people that are working on it right now in different ways around the world, and ended up connecting with some people from Australia and Germany and others, and we had
Wow.
formed the International Social Capital Association. Wanted to connect people around the concept and make the concept more digestible and readily available to everyone, because it impacts everyone. So it's just been an exciting, what has it been now? 7 years. So my
Wow.
dissertation was published in 2018. So the last 7 years, I've been diving into social capital.
Wow, that's so exciting. So for our audience who doesn't know, can you kind of give like a definition of social capital and kind of maybe help them be able to relate to, how it fits into this conversation that we're having today?
Absolutely. So what I will say, in the social capital community, there's a bunch of ways to research it, a bunch of ways to look at it. But my simplistic definition that others have used as well is simply the value derived between human relationships. I would add to that it's really about the opportunity that lies therein, because social capital in itself is not a thing. It's
Ah,
a opportunity. It's a potential between individuals that connect. And you're measuring all the ways that that potential could flourish or be detrimental, versus the actual thing that is social capital.
okay, awesome. So since you and I have been chatting, I've been kind of telling people, to get excited about this conversation, and it has really sparked some interesting conversations among, the people that I've met. Everyone is
Great.
interested in how, we can connect better to people, and then really what that means, especially as you and I talked when we were preparing for this conversation, is that like we've kind of gone all digital, and we mistake, like, notifications from Facebook and social media or text messages as, connection. But is that really going deep enough? Is that a good replacement for, sitting down and having coffee or having a conversation on Zoom? Is that going to give us deep connection? So
Right. And that's such a valid question. Because I think our default now is reliant upon efficiency and the efficiencies we've gained through technological communication. And I'm not here to bash social media communication or texting or anything else. I think what I'm here doing in the social capital conversation is just trying to draw attention to what is real connection and then what is our brain telling us is real connection.
yeah,
Right now there's research on the loneliness epidemic, and we see self-isolationism increasing. Yet people have hyperconnectivity. So in this place of
right.
hyperconnectivity, where there's the opportunity to be really connected, we're feeling more isolated and more lonely than ever.
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen a lot of that stuff about loneliness, and in the conversations that I've started to have, is some of it is, related to, we kind of curate ourselves online, whereas when we have, the real coffee and the real conversations, we really break down those walls and say, yes, this is what I'm going through. And it turns out that, wow, other people are going through this struggle too, whether it's taking care of aging parents, it's struggling with parenthood, um, work stuff. So do you think that, that curation is probably leading to some of this loneliness because we're afraid to let down our walls and let people see who we really are, and online allows us to kind of keep that barrier up?
Absolutely, yes. I mean, I could see anyone using this as, as that barrier, that protection mechanism to promote the story of themselves that they want others to see. But I think that that's just part of the human condition, that we want to present our best selves. And I don't think there's negative intent there. I think
Mhm.
everything that we're trying to do is positive. When we go like a photo or we leave a comment or we're excited for others, the problem is when we're excited for others, when we're seeing that on social media, we're getting to interact with what could potentially be dopamine releases in our brain or oxytocin.
Mhm.
The other person's not getting that. It's not a connecting experience, it's a soul experience. And I think that there's even an opportunity in its most negative form to breed narcissistic tendencies within
Yeah.
ourselves, because we are presenting ourselves in that particular way, once again, out of positive intent. But then I think we can almost disappoint ourselves and let ourselves down when we're not holding up to this facade that we've presented, and that in itself creates this cycle of disappointment within ourselves, and at the end of the day we're not truly connecting as well. So it's just this I don't know, it's like almost like a carousel of positive intent yet negative feelings around that actual connection. I think there is a formula for connection with all of the available ways we can connect. And that's kind of what I've been trying to work on, understanding what that means. I think we have to make rules for ourselves about how
Mhm.
we connect with others that include
Mhm.
face to face time, phone time, virtual time, social media time, and get away from the default behaviors that we're allowing ourselves to fall into that still have us feeling lonely at the end of the day.
Wow, oh my gosh, this just, like, connects to so many of the things that I talk about on the Happy Life Agenda, because it taps into identity and how we don't live as our true selves. What you're saying about, the narcissistic tendencies that the way that society has formed with social media and everything. And then even just the need for connection and, finding purpose. I mean, and the positivity mindset and conversations that you have with yourself versus, that negative, like, "Oh my gosh, I'm not good enough. No one can really know this." I mean, like you said, it has so many facets, social capital. And until I met you, I had never heard these two words combined. And so, like, reading your book, listening to your TED talk, it's just opened up a whole new world. So let's kind of go into your TEDx talk real quick, because you talk about three pillars in there: relational capital, cognitive capital, and structural capital. And you kind of break these down as to how they play into the value of social capital. So can you kind of give us some insight there?
Absolutely. Yeah, and this is one of those places where people measure social capital within the broader research community different ways. These are the three that I've latched onto. They are pretty well accepted. I spoke about them recently in France and my intent to use them. I've always used them. They connect with me and they connect with what I think is the potential of social capital. So I just want to precursor by saying that there are other
Yeah.
measures, but these are, to me, the ones that resonate the most. But relational capital is really just that portion of social capital, where it is the connection point, the trust building, actually the exchange of that communication and connectivity with another person. So there are skills to be gained there, as an individual and connecting with others. But it's that, what I consider like the nitty gritty relationship building pieces of the concept. Structural capital goes beyond that, in that it applies it more broadly. If you want to think of it as an individual, it's who you are, your presence as far as like on social media, how people know you, what people know you for. And it is a long-standing thing that is built, but it is a facet of you that people could view from afar. And what I try to do is align who I am to that presence. But a lot of people, I found, when they see my presence, they think that I'm not as, I guess, connective and down to earth as I am. So I don't know what vibe I'm putting out as far as the way people see me, seeing me do the talks through my book or whatever. They're like, this person's very serious. And I am very serious about the topic, but I'm also very connecting. So I feel like there's a disconnect with my structural capital and who I actually am. But it's the view. It can stand alone. It's this facet of you that people see. Like, that's who I think Ricky Mask is, and that's. But it also, you build that over time with the things that you're willing to contribute to it. In an organizational setting, an organization can have structural capital, and you could imagine how the things I just said about myself also could apply to the reputation of an organization or how an organization is viewed.
Absolutely.
And then cognitive capital is that shared communication, what we bring to the table. You have so much insight from the Happy Life agenda and all the things that you've done, Dani. Very impressive. And you bring that to the conversation, and you bring that to the table for what we're doing together. And then I have the knowledge that I bring as well, and that's the cognitive capital, that shared experience. When we bring our knowledge together, we share that together. Our structural capitals come together. We can build a relationship, a deep, meaningful, connected relationship. And now we're dealing with the opportunity that is social capital. We're dealing with all the possible outcomes of our connectivity, and that's social capital.
Wow, this is just so cool. I've got goosebumps over here because I spent a lot of time listening to podcasts, and a theme that's coming up again is how we learn and how that has shifted. And we used to think that it was just this straight line of academia, and you go to your primary school and then your college and then graduate school, et cetera. But now with online, so much is available. And then, just like you said, even this conversation. And when we fail to get out from behind our computers and go out and have those conversations and leave ourselves open to new ideas, we're really stunting ourselves from being able to learn more. I am an introvert by nature. And so when I started on this journey and, did something crazy like a podcast, I did not know that it would be so much fun and I would learn so much that it's natural. It's not scary, which is what I thought it would be. And that I've had this opportunity to learn, and it's an absolute blast. So what you just said is just like, and I've met these cool people. And so now the whole world has opened up to me, and possibilities and outcomes that I never would have predicted. So it's just amazing that this subject matter it's touching on everything. It's just the coolest thing. So did you have any comment on that before I move to our next thing, which I think segues into it, is like closing ourselves off and having those biases?
Yeah. Well, no, Dani, hearing you're an introvert kind of blows my mind, but it lets me know something about you that I think is amazing. You are putting intentionality behind your connections with people. And as I move forward with what my research and my next steps in the journey of social capital, I'm really looking into how to give like a guideline for relational capital and how to build that. And this is one of those pieces of it. It's that intentionality to go out and do something that you said could be scary for you, but you've learned so much. And that's like one of those key components of understanding relational capital and growing it. So I just thought that was really awesome, and I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's so the pillar that I stand on personally in this journey has been getting uncomfortable with being uncomfortable. And, that's just what you said is if you kind of lean into that, where the relationships that blossom, because it's a little uncomfortable to meet new people, put yourself out there. And so, but it sounds like it's fundamental to expanding relationships. So,
It
so
is.
cool.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. All right. So then let's talk about one of the things that keeps us from having those relationships. And it's our biases. Is that the right way to say it? I
Hmm.
think I heard that on your TEDx talk, is that, we we have seen in research that like diversity is really key to learning, but a lot of times the family that we grew up in, the places where we grew up in, kind of our environment shapes our biases. And so even though we might try to bump up against them, we struggle with that, and it keeps us closed off to what we could possibly learn and experience and the outcomes we want to have. So can you talk a little bit more about biases?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've had a long journey with understanding like that part of myself because when I originally was brought the concept of what bias is and what it meant to me, particularly as a white male in our society, it was brought to me in my mind as a negative thing. Like I was told to address my biases and, look out for my biases. And I always found it presented to me in this stern nature, and I'm like, what is this? What is this concept? What are we really dealing with here? And for me, I went back and just looked at the origination of biases around heuristics. And there was a time when instant judgments of our environment were imperative to our society to
Ah,
to be able to thrive. When we were nomadic, when we're running from saber-toothed tigers and we need to make instant judgments about our safety, biases are extremely helpful. That's why our
interesting.
brain forms them. It's these shortcuts within our neural pathways to identify danger, protect us, make split second decisions. And there's a lot of things, gut instinct lies there, like when you have
Yeah.
a gut feeling about something. And there are plenty of relevant places for that to exist. The issue is we've become for the better part, a civilized society. We like to interact with each other in non-violent and aggressive ways. We like to communicate and connect and everything, and that's where bias gets in the way.
Right.
Because it's not split-second decisions that we need to make. If you're having a good time and you're out to dinner with a group of friends, maybe some new friends, old friends, people you've never met, if you're really going into that objectively and you're wanting to connect, your biases will make split-second decisions, opinions about everybody at the table based on minuscule information that you gather about them. And you're not in a situation in most cases where you need to be super protective in that moment. You're not in a life or death scenario. So jumping in on those biases and saying, I just heard this person say one thing. I know one thing about this person.
Right.
Why am I getting defensive? Like you feel yourself, somebody will say something like, oh, that
Yeah.
that didn't sound, I don't like that. And you may find yourself not talking to them the rest of the night. I say just chill. I say ask them more questions, be objective, continue that conversation. You're going to do one of two things. You're going to confirm that your alarm bell bias was correct and you really don't want to have a relationship with that person and they do not align to your belief system or whatever, or there's things that innately are unsafe for you there, or you're going to find the exact opposite. But at least you gave it a chance and you didn't go off that initial flinching moment. And there's a chart called the Cognitive Bias Codex, and I just recommend that people look at that. You can search it on Google, but it's the Cognitive Bias Codex. There's 188 known biases there. There are
Wow.
some that I've interacted with, and it's actually been really fun.
Okay.
Um, and I know biases and working with our internal selves and fun, you don't hear those together very
No, you
often.
don't.
But like, just for instance, I used to use this one a lot and it resonates sometimes and it doesn't, but I'll throw it out there and see what happens. So if you said, Rick, do you want to go out to dinner tonight? Yes, I do. And I know exactly where I want to go and I know exactly what I'm going to get on the menu. It's not even the most healthy option. I'm going to go to El Tapatio, great restaurant locally, and I'm going to get the chile verde. I love the chile verde. It's pork though. It's not the healthiest option on the menu. They have such great food. I could probably try a million different things, but if I don't check myself, I'm going to do exactly that. If you
Mhm.
if you came into town and wanted to go out to dinner, like if we just wanted to go do that, I would do exactly what I just told you because that's my default and I have a comfortability bias around that. I know what to expect from that. It's safe. We could be, it could be the first time we've went out anywhere, so I'm not necessarily super safe here, so I'm going to go with my default option, my bias
Oh,
option. and I'm going to do that because that's comfortable. So I can be comfortable here, and then I can meet a new person in that comfortability. But it keeps me from trying something new on the menu because, and
Yeah.
I'm sure there's plenty of good stuff. It's the same thing if you go to a networking event or you're meeting a new
Mhm.
group of people. You tend to make those split second judgments based on initial conversation. You're going to move toward people that appear to be interested in the same things you are, or dressed the same way as you, or maybe are the same gender as you. And that's a normal default behavior. And there's nothing wrong with you feeling safe. I would say, though, in most situations, ask yourself why you're having those feelings and see if you can step outside of them. That's
Wow.
the fun journey you can have with addressing biases.
Wow.
Um, yeah.
Oh my gosh. So what's popping up for me is you keep saying like default and patterns. And so like a big part of the happy life agenda, along with getting uncomfortable, is like the discomfort is like saying like, why am I, what are these patterns? Why am I repeating them? And how are they serving me? Or are they doing me harm? And so again, just the overlap is just so cool here. And so what you've said is like, we have to look at our patterns. And I mean, I've talked a lot about it can be as simple as the way that you wake up in the morning. My habit, I would say, for until I went on this journey, which was started like a year ago, was to hit the alarm and turn it off. Know that in about 10 minutes I would wake myself up again, reset it for another 30 minutes, and then go back to sleep, and then get up and do my usual, walk to the bathroom, flip on the light, be groggy, get in my workout clothes, all of that stuff. But I've been doing some version of that for 30 plus years, right? Maybe not quite that long, but
Yeah.
and so breaking that habit was the first one that I tackled, and it's what started to open up all of these different things. And so just what you're saying about the restaurant, it's like if we don't step out our comfort zone in each little piece of our lives, we are failing to notice what's keeping us stuck. I'm diving into this can apply to your finances, this can apply to your wellness, it can apply to everything. And so when you're going on these journeys, you've got to break down pieces of it. So for me, it was starting with my morning routine. Like for you, it might be starting with when someone new comes to town, or maybe those intersect. You tackle two at once, but this is just I don't know. This is just so cool because this is breaking down all the things as we want to become better people and be open to the possibilities why God put us on this earth. And here it is right here in social capital. And oh my gosh, I'm just so excited if you can't tell. So
Awesome.
let's talk a little bit about you say in your TED talk, the benefits of getting out of cultural norms. And I read Malcolm Gladwell's book, Revenge of the Tipping Point, and this might take this a little bit to the extreme, but he talks about, some suburbia place somewhere where everybody moved and they had the same house and the same car. It almost sounds
Mhm.
a little bit like that movie. I'm drawing a blank, but where everything was a lot of sameness. And
Yes.
at some point, somebody decided to step out and say that they were sad and they didn't like it, and they committed suicide, and then rates of suicide went up. So there are a lot of risks when we don't get outside of our biases and don't get outside of cultural norms, because if we're all the same, then groupthink takes over, and there's a lot of danger in that. And that whole book covers it. Can you talk a little bit about how social capital plays into that, and kind of what you're saying is like, it can be fun to go and deconstruct our biases with the codex, but also think about the importance of doing that activity and working on that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that our society, particularly here in the United States, was not built off of this singular collectiveness, this similarity. I know that that's tried to be present in our society, and
Mhm.
you see architecture being very similar. You see people wanting to drive the same cars. I know that we've
Yeah.
had a push for that, but if you
Mhm.
consider the development of our society and the immigration that it took to create our society, not even getting into the conversation of stolen land, Native Americans, and that's
Mhm.
a completely separate conversation. But if we
Mhm.
consider just the U.S. society and the amalgamation, the melting pot that was created from the immigration, we have been a connected culture of separate beliefs and values from basically the beginning, if not the beginning.
True, true.
Um, and this push to create, what you've described, because there's been eras in our society where similarity was pushed towards similarity of religion, thought, architecture, how we acted, our clothes. I think there's value in finding community and connection. I think there's value there.
Mhm.
but that can be found through diverse perspectives and connection with other people. We could have a connected community of diversity.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
what, and if we can focus on building our connectivity through that, even just reflecting on the community that I live in and the people that are around me. We all have different pursuits and passions and everything. Trying to force that community into an individualistic pursuit, it feels unnatural to what
Yeah.
I see from my community. So I think when we're addressing biases within ourselves and we are actually interacting with what is our full self, because to address these patterns that don't serve us, I think that we are opening ourselves up to be our true selves, be our true open selves. When we're
Yes.
doing that, we're contributing to others being able to do that as well. I really feel like if people see you in a mask, trying to be in this, I don't want to say fake, but presentative state of trying to create a unification of what an ideal should be for our society,
Mhm. Mhm.
instead of seeing you in your true light, it just adds to that false narrative that there's some kind of, I don't know, some kind of like idealization or romanticism of this singular way or the singular viewpoint for what our society should be or look like. When they see you in your truly awoken open self, I think it lets them feel more comfortable in your presence to do the same. It's
Mhm.
like the Trolls movie, the animated movie, the kids
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah, my
They
daughter
get
loves
all
that.
sad and depressed and they all lose their color, and then it comes, they like gather around, it comes back, like somebody gets happy and they're showing their self again, and then everybody else is able to do that. It feels very much like that to me.
Oh,
If we're
it's
focused on
true.
some kind of individualistic consistency of what the American norm should be, it's that gray area, that lifeless and everybody's trying to align area. And then the really colorful, excited dancing troll time is like us all being ourselves and that being okay.
I love that. Oh my gosh, that's so cool. That troll analogy is my daughter loves that show, and so I just love that analogy. That's perfect. Oh my gosh. Well, so since we're talking about idealistic society, and I did start my journey on a little bit, like, hey, we live in a patriarchal dominated society, and as a woman, and I, been in corporate America, climbing to the top, it becomes very difficult because there's a lot that both genders bring to the table, and we really need to like promote both of those. And equality means, as you just said, being able to be both your individual selves and it work together, instead of like one is better than the other and make the other one come over to the other side. So I know that you had some really great conversation and great experiences yourself with this, because in your TEDx talk, you told your personal story. And I was really intrigued by your story, because it's not something that you typically hear, on the, like you said earlier, white male side of the story, but you experience something that I feel like a lot of women experience. And it doesn't mean that men don't. I mean, you're a shining example. So can you talk a little bit about your personal story, and then how you've been able to overcome what happened to you initially to thrive as you have?
Absolutely, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk about that, Danny. Um, I just want to say first off that I am a white male in our society. I will never understand what it's like to live this existence as a woman, as a female in our society. And I just want to say before I provide any feedback to your question that my response is coming from a place of understanding that you have a unique journey that I can never experience. And I have the utmost respect for your journey as a female and as a woman in our society. And I just want to give recognition to that. It's I just like to promote that awareness because I think that I talk in an assertive manner sometimes, and I want to know what I want it to be known where my perspective is coming from.
Sure, sure.
Um,
Thank you for that.
so absolutely. Yeah. So for me, I found myself as a statistic in our state. I grew up in Tennessee, and I had a child um, when I was 16. Right before I turned 17, I had a child. So I was just lucky enough that the year I wanted to, the year I graduated, so the state of Tennessee actually allowed for a lottery scholarship. So they introduced the lottery and as part of that, they had to set aside some of the proceeds for educational funding, and I was a recipient of those scholarships.
Congrats. Awesome.
Thank you. So that allowed me to go to school. That and a guy letting me live above his garage if I paid his cable bill every month. So
Wow.
those things
Talk about
combined
fortuitous.
allowed me to. His name was Larry Garner. He's passed away, but he was amazing, and I appreciate him. So just honored to his name and helping me. But anyway, and I get in these classes, and I'm in a situation where obviously I have a child that I need to support. So I'm working overnights and I'm attending class during the day. And the art faculty at the University of Tennessee, amazing. Too many people to name, but I love them all. I eat dinner with them when I go back home. They are my people. They were great, amazing, and they kept me focused on my journey. So thank you all, art faculty at University of Tennessee. However, I did run into people who weren't so understanding of my situation. And there was this one course, and every time I would get in there, I had been up for about 36 hours. There was nothing I could
Oh
do
my
about it. I
gosh.
worked all night. Went straight to my 8 a.m. And then this was my last class of the day, right before I was going to take a nap, before I went to work again.
Oh, wow.
And I kept falling asleep in this class. And this instructor, I fell asleep once, and he was relatively rude. So at the end of class, I went to him and I was like, "Hey, I know that I shouldn't be falling asleep in here. I want you to know this isn't elective, and I'm not trying to make light of your class. That's not the point. But like, I am struggling. I am like 17. I am exhausted. This is my situation." And there was no empathy, no concern, no whatever. And he said essentially, if I kept falling asleep in his class, he was just going to fail me. And I'm like, I don't have the money or the time or anything for this. So I just had to like find some way to forcibly keep myself awake through this lecture. And it was just in
Wow.
that moment that I'm like, I never want to be like that. And I can't
Yeah.
imagine, because I understand how bias works now. In reflecting back on that, I was another white male. So intrinsically in his brain, if he had never dealt with bias, really hope he had, but we didn't have in-depth conversations like that. Like, I am the person that he would give the most empathy to, because I am like him. Maybe
Right.
not socioeconomically, but I'm another white male. I'm a young white male. And as I've gotten older, I reflect, and like, I can only imagine how he would have treated a person of color, or a woman, or somebody that was different than him. Those feelings of
Right.
empathy wouldn't even be there. That subconscious, this person's like me empathy. And like I said, I know that's playing into
Wow.
bias. I know that's playing into bias, but I'm just reflecting back. I'm like, how much worse would a journey be for someone who wasn't like him? And I'm just sitting there, and it's it's had me really think and reflect on what other people's experience is with individuals like that. And it informed me to know that, first off, I never want to be like that.
Yeah.
And two, like, I want to address these things within me that would hinder me from being empathetic to whatever someone's situation might be. Being a professor in the classroom for about 4 years, and then being a dean and interacting with these students and others, I want to be as supportive as I can be. And my mantra for people that work for me, that I lead, or my students, is your health, your
Mm,
family's health, and then
mhm.
whatever it is that I need of you, whether that be homework or some duty at a job, or whatever. Wherever I'm a leader, those are the three things that guide how I interact with people. And experiences like that led me to that. But I just,
Wow.
yeah, and part of that journey too was just understanding what toxic masculinity is versus like holistic masculinity, bringing my whole self to the table, understanding myself, and understanding that I don't need to follow this prescribed notion of our society, that I should be stoic and I should disassociate from my emotions to hold strength in emotional situations. That's not strength. That's
Right.
disconnection. And
Yes.
connecting with myself, my emotions, who I am, being the whole me,
Mhm.
um, lets me show up in what I consider positive masculinity. We've assigned tasks in our society to what masculinity and femininity is. And that's completely the opposite of the approach. All tasks are masculine and feminine. All duties are masculine and feminine. It's how we show up in that energy. We
Mhm.
all, when I'm with my kids, I'm a man with my kids. When
Right.
I'm doing housework, I'm a man doing housework. When I'm at work, I'm a man at work. And
Right.
showing up as my whole self in those spaces is what I should be doing. Um, and I think we got to this place in our society. I feel like I've kind of gone off course here, Danny, so I
No,
apologize.
no,
But
you're good. You're good. This
I
is
feel like
interesting.
we've got to this place in our society where men and women are sharing a lot of responsibilities, and men that have not explored their self are saying, I used to do this set of tasks, and that's what I did. And now that the tasks are all kind of shared, men are having a
Mhm.
crisis to say, what is a man if it's not my tasks?
Oh, wow.
What is a man if it's not these things that I've been responsible for? And it's never been the things that you're responsible for. It's how you show up in whatever you're responsible for.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
it's just been unfortunate, and it's something. I read Bell Hooks' book, The Will to Change,
Mhm.
and it changed my life because I can visually see the negative impact of toxic masculinity and patriarchal systems on women because I'm looking at that. What I had so much trouble defining was how it impacted me internally, and that book basically opened that up for me, and I could see how it was hurting me so bad for showing up because you show up in disassociation or lack of emotion or not your full self. You show up in martyrdom, saying, I am working so hard. I would work
Mhm.
myself in the ground to take care of those that I love. When in reality, you're not showing up in connection at all. You're showing
Yeah,
up in isolation and disconnection. And that's how it really bleeds into this conversation. Not showing up
absolutely.
in your full self is showing up in disconnection.
So
But
true.
yeah, it
Oh
was
my
it was
gosh.
a long journey for me.
I will. I'm gonna say that like how many men have an experience like that at such a young age, and then you bookmarked that, and it's been a thread in your life. So I don't know if it's been a long journey because I mean my head's about to explode here because this is like a conversation that I just it needs to be had because I've had the some conversations about masculine and feminine archetypes and we need to show up, but this really puts a really cool perspective on it, and I think almost an actionable perspective for males and females both, because I grew up in the patriarchal society. I wanted to climb the ladder, and my mantras were check your problems at the door. It doesn't matter what's going on at home. You're at work, and suck it up and get your job done. And those are all very what you just said, like the task of a man is like the wife's going to take care of the kids. I'm going to go to work and I'm providing for my family. In my world, that was like something that I wanted to achieve. And so as I've grown my career, that's what I did. But when I suddenly had this awakening where it's like, wait a minute, I have a 7-year-old daughter. I waited 10 years to have this baby and I'm not spending any time with her. What
Mm.
what is wrong with my world, the world? And now it's what you just said. It's like I wasn't allowed to show up as a woman because I am giving all the cognitive labor and things to what momhood means. I'm have to show up as somebody else or a different type of person at work. And so you just I mean, I'm just like I'm almost speechless. But that's not good for podcasting because this is
Well,
audio too. But oh my gosh, just so
I
much
do want to just
conversation
say
here.
thank you, Danny, and thank you for reflecting on that. I heard the statements that you had made. Like suck it up and get it done, and those kinds of statements. And I just want to say, like, I do think that there's enormous value in resilience and grit,
Yes, yes, yes,
and I don't want to take away from that. But for me, my resilience and grit was built through isolation and doing things myself,
yes,
getting it done,
exactly.
and at the expense of disconnecting from everything that wasn't part of that, whatever that thing was. And I've just learned that through understanding myself and approaching resilience and grit through connection is healthy. resilience and grit. That isolationism, resilience and grit that I had developed helped me to go far at the cost of my emotional well-being, at the cost of my physical well-being, at the cost of connection with people that I love.
Mhm.
And that was a reckoning. So that resilience and grit can still be found through connection and encouragement. If I come to the table and I'm encouraging and connecting and understanding of the struggle of my wife, my children, those I lead, they also reflectively understand my struggle as well. And giving them the opportunity to be there for me as I've tried to be there for them
Mhm.
was the most powerful gift I ever gave myself.
Wow. So let's touch on that, isolationism versus connectionism, because that's exactly what I did. I would say almost to my family of origin, it's like, I'm right until proven wrong, and you're gonna have to try really hard to prove me wrong. And I'm like, I can do it myself. And so when I became a leader, I still had some of those, if one gets ice cream, we all get ice cream. I don't care what you got going on at the house, you're gonna get this done. And when I made that shift to being a leader who met each person where they were at, understood what they were going through, and spent time one to one with them, again, that connection piece, and then bring them together as a team, I got more creativity, I got more innovation, I got happier employees, I got greater productivity. And so it's a difficult thing in our society. Like, a lot of organizations don't know how to shift to that type of leadership. Even our school model, you look at Finland, and that's how they manage their education system. And so we've all in this standardization and putting everybody in boxes and groups and treating everyone the same. But as your story illustrates, this conversation illustrates, that connection and pouring into individuals and meeting them where they're at is important. But we have to shift completely how we operate as a society, which is really, really hard. So do you have advice on that?
It's
Big
let's
question.
change the world.
Yeah, that's what I
No,
mean.
I, that's right. That's right. Um, no, I'll be honest, and this is where the rubber meets the road. For the sake of social capital, I have been the cynic voice in the group. So when we have these meetings, when I'm speaking in France and we're connecting with all these social capitalists from all over the place, I'm the cynic. I'm the one that
Really?
doesn't usually see light at the end of the tunnel. It feels hard. It
Really?
feels like really hard work. But I think through, like I said, my newest venture, the newest research I'm going to do, understanding that formula for how we can be intentional about human connection, I think it comes down to almost like a grassroots individual
Yes.
effort for us all. And I was so glad to
Yes.
hear you say it earlier. You said it. It's that, you were an introvert and you're intentionally going out and making those connections. So I think we all have to put some intentionality behind our
Yes.
connections with other individuals, even when we don't feel like it, even
Yeah.
when we're an introvert, even when it feels uncomfortable and we need to be comfortable with feeling uncomfortable. We need to get out there and we've got to be intentional about connection. And I'm just hoping that through my research and through the stuff I'm going to release a little bit later, that I can give a playbook for that, just to say that,
Wow.
if you want to sustain good meaningful relationships, x amount of time should be face to face, x amount of time could be video chatting, x amount of time can be texting. So to give, because we've had to make rules for our children around technology that nobody had to make
Mhm.
for us. It didn't
Yeah.
exist. My 2-year-old, when he was 2, he's 12 now, but when he was 2, he walked up to the TV and tried to swipe the TV because every screen was a touch screen to him. He didn't know a world without touch screens. So
Wow. That's cool.
it's we had to make those rules. We got to make rules for ourselves on how to
Yeah.
communicate and connect using these tools that we have. Nobody is going to ask us to do that, and no one's going to make those rules for us. In fact, social media companies and others are just trying to find ways to make money off of those
Mhm.
default behaviors. Doom
Yes.
scrolling makes them
Oh.
rich. They're not going to make rules to help you
Mm-mm.
truly connect with someone.
Mm-mm.
They're going to make
Mm-mm.
rules to get more money. It's their job.
Yeah. But there is something to say, and I mean, I don't expect it to happen because money is what's kind of like ruling the world right now, or for organizations. But if you don't have customers, then you aren't going to make money. And now with the rise of AI, and I know we're almost out of time, so we're probably going to have to just have to have this conversation again. But it's with that rise of AI. social media is going to have to do some shifting because everyone's programming their AI bots to, respond to this post and like this post. We've got people now that they can upload, hours and hours of their footage and create, a podcast just like this. And you would know whether it's actually me and you talking or if it's our bots talking. And
Right.
so I think we kind of touched on this on our pre-conversation for this podcast, but is like, how are we going to be able to move forward and where's the trust? And like Seth Godin says, we're going to have to form these pods where we've actually met in real life before all this digital stuff is going to be okay. So do you want to real quickly touch on that? And then maybe that's a teaser for I have to have you back on.
No, I love the thought process. I love the thought of a pod. I hope that technology forces us to go face to face. That would be
Yeah.
outstanding. It would
Yeah.
support everything I'm trying to do so much. So I love it. I love to hear that. But yeah, I think that there's definitely going to have to be, if this continues, and I say if just to give a percentage of chance that it might not, it will, but I can't say that definitively. So if this continues, the route it's going, absolutely. I think that there will have to be these pods or this connection points between people before moving forward because the relational component to social capital, trust is a key component of that construct that helps build social capital in a world with AI rising. And I see videos all the time and they look more real and more real, and it's not crazy stuff. It's not I seen a video of Vladimir Putin delivering a pizza to somebody's front door through the peephole or whatever. It's not that. It's like a reporter out there with a plausible scenario behind them, but it's completely AI generated.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
the level of distrust will continue to rise. And literally, I think we unfortunately will get to a point where if you don't see it in person, if you're not physically there, you can't hold any
Mhm.
trust in it,
Yeah.
which is scary to think about, really scary. Um, but yeah, no, I'm so welcoming of the pod situation, connecting with people face to face. I hope this
Yeah.
happens.
It will kind of take us back a little bit because if you think about, before all of this technology is like nobody, believed that we walked on the moon and all this stuff because you didn't have, a trust in that, a TV. What is this thing, And so,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
War of the Worlds, that happened with the radio. I mean, people really thought we were being invaded by aliens because that was their outlet to the world. So, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of shifting happening. It's crazy. And that's what this conversation is so exciting is because you're touching on all the shifts, but you're bringing the very human element to it. And how is it impacting us and how do we move forward from here? And as you said, is that no one's working on this because it doesn't make them money. If we all become our individual selves, what really happens to the 1% that's making all of that money?
absolutely. How do you track trends for proper marketing when your generational identifiers are just out the window because everybody's just themselves?
Yeah.
Um, so this idea of conformity, at least in certain groups, even if we consider generational titles, which I think are kind of baloney.
The-
There's a lot of other things to consider, geographical location, all kinds of stuff, different
yeah.
conversation. But if they can just at least understand those groupings, they have a way to market, they have a way to promote, they have a way to mass market, and have a good ROI there. If we're all ourselves,
Absolutely.
what do you do? And then it creates there's economic blowback because people aren't running out and buying Stanley Cups
Mhm.
as big groups of people anymore because not everybody has to have a Stanley Cup or whatever it is. It's just an example, but they create these market situations where there's mass movement on a particular thing. If everybody is truly engaging with their own individual needs and understanding who they are and understanding that their abundance comes from that unique perspective, yeah, it
Yes.
really it really jacks a lot of stuff up.
Okay, well, that's definitely our next conversation. So, before we run out of time, I really want everyone to know, you guys have to get Rick's book, Social Capital, and read it. If you aren't fascinated by this conversation already, you can continue it right here. Of course, I have to have him back on, but where can people find you online? Are you on social? Kind of give us the down low on that.
Absolutely, yeah. So I pretty much only interact on LinkedIn through social media, and it's just if you search Dr. Rick L. Mask on LinkedIn, you can find me there, and I'll also provide the actual full link to Danny. I'd recommend anybody that wants to understand social capital more go to socialcapitalresearch.com. There is a very comprehensive gathering of information there. Once again, Cognitive Bias Codex. Please look that up. Google that. It's a great resource. The Will to Change by Bell Hooks, that can be found on Amazon. And as far as like where you can find me in person, because I think that's important, I'm really
Yes.
hoping to attend ISCA, International Social Capital Association's first conference, March
Oh,
26th through the 28th in Dubai. And there's a website for you to go if you're interested in going to that as well, and meet people like me who are trying to be intentional about creating human connection.
oh my gosh. So what is that website?
That website is socialcapital2026.com.
Okay, socialcapital2026.com. Well, that's cool. I'm going to look into that because as you can see, I've just been fascinated this entire conversation. So thank you so much, Dr. Rick, for coming on. This has been so much fun. And audience, if you can't tell, I'm going to have him back on because I've been thoroughly I met you and we talked briefly and I read your books and your TED Talk, but I've just been blown away. And so I'm so excited. Thank you. Thank you for making time for me and our audience.
Yes.
And for those of you who know me and know what I have going on, one of the things we talked about the retreats and the pods and meeting in real person is I'm starting to host retreats with experts, similar to Dr. Rick, and hopefully one day Dr. Rick will be at one of them, because I want to connect you with these experts and conversations. As you heard in our conversation, there's pieces of our lives that we work on at a time. And so when I bring in these experts, if you need to work on, your financial wholeness, your wellness wholeness, your mindset, all of those things, that's the people that I'm bringing in to connect you with. And at these retreats, you get that real life experience. And for those of you that do the overnights, you get that small group discussion and the one-to-ones. So really, really think about how you're connecting with people and the opportunities that are presented to you. The Happy Life Agenda retreat is available at happylifeagenda.com. We have one coming up in August. And of course, as always, if you love this conversation, please click subscribe below. Follow me on social. Dr. Rick and I are always chatting on LinkedIn with our posts and things. So please chime in there. And thank you guys so much for listening. And I'll see y'all next time.